I shall land first,
said Angron enthusiastically.
I shall come at them and cleave their bodies. You will not,
said another. A familiar voice. A quiet, rasping, sullen growl, but changed. Thickened with phlegm.
I claim the task. My legion will be first to attack the walls, as I pledged to the War Master months ago.
Mortarion, Primarch of the Death Guard, entered through the grand doors of Lupercal's court. This was not Mortarion as his brothers remembered him. He was changed, like Angron, Fulgrim, and Magnus, lifted by the Pantheon and given new form. Always among the tallest of the Primarchs, he had grown further, his famine-spare frame pushed to great height, tattered moth wings furled on his back. The scythe silence had grown with its master, become as long as a Vox transmission pole. Mortarion appeared sickly, his face scarred by disease and his eyes milky with cataracts. Fluid wept from craters in his dirty armor, while all around him swelled a dense, stinking fog. Where he passed the door guard, Abaddon's Justerin fell heavily. Black fluid leaked from perished seals and bloody phlegm coughed from their breathing grills. The sound of armor closing itself against the environment filled the room, but it did no good. The Terminators suffered in the grip of sickness. Mortarion continued forward, feeling Horus's elite by his very presence.
Back away from him,
Abaddon commanded.
Seal the room!
Atmospheric cyclers ceased turning. Machines bleeped out tones of compliance. Still, the Lord of Death marched forwards. Kyber began to cough behind his mask. Axamon took several steps back, his face greening as he fumbled on his helm. Lyak dropped to his knees, singing praise in the ear-burning tongue of his worship, but he too struggled to breathe Mortarion's miasma. Of them all, only Horus, Tormageddon, and Abaddon were left unaffected. A stench wreathed the Lord of Death that defied any kind of description. Human senses lacked the capacity to experience it in fullness. So foul, so pungent with rot and sickly life was it, that it triggered Abaddon's omophagia, and he tasted a bouquet of misery sublime in their vanity. It shocked him to his soul that he could breathe. He looked to the others choking on Mortarion's photo, and yet when the Primarch approached Abaddon, he inhaled easily, though the stench appalled him. Mortarion stopped a few feet from his brother's throne. Pearlescent eyes stared down into brown, both afire within a power that was not of the material realm. His breathing was labored, rattling in his lungs so each exhalation sounded like his last. Puffs of reeking corpse gas jetted from Mortarion's mask. Axamon and Kyber dragged themselves back, behind the throne, crawling as far as they could from the corrupted Primarch. Retching grated from Kyber's voxmeter as he vomited into his helmet. Axamon pulled himself into a corner, managed to roll onto his back, and lay there stupefied. The Lord of Death slammed the ferrule of silence upon the hard floor.
My War Master, I heed your call.
With those words he knelt. The height his transformation had bestowed meant that he was as tall as the seated War Master even when he bowed. Abaddon suppressed a sneer. Such weakness. The Lord of Death traded his position as a Lord of Men to become a slave of the gods. Angron paced in and out of the field of view of his hollow emitter. Fulgrim giggled. Perturabo glared.
My brother, we welcome you,
said Horus.
Rise.
Bones popped as the Lord of Death stood again.
I come to fulfill my promise and lead the assault upon the palace.
His voice, once a pure bass, was a hoarse whisper.
You are greatly gifted by our patrons,
Horus said, taking in his brother's transformation.
You will not be able to set foot upon Terra.
I have patience. My sons will go before me to prepare the way. They are ready,
said Mortarion.
We bring new weapons for an old war. My warriors have transcended the limitations of mortality. Nothing can 7 plagues for you to unleash upon Terra. Let the unseen soldiers of Bacillus and Virus reap the foe and add their deaths to the total. And when the tally pleases Father Norgo, then I shall descend to the palace and take my vengeance upon the false Emperor.
Do you see? Said Horus. You must all wait. But not for long. He raised his voice to address them all, but stared Angron in the eye. The second phase of the invasion begins tonight. Once the Mechanicum begin the construction of their siege engines, their Mortarion's legion shall be given the honor of being first upon Terra.
No!
Shouted Angron.
No! It should be me!
It is my will, said Horus, that the Death Guard attack first.